Greetings family, welcome back to the channel, and before we get into today's explosive story, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share this video so more people can join the conversation. What unfolded on the streets of South Africa this week was nothing short of chaos, a scene that perfectly captures the growing tension in the country as ordinary citizens clashed head-on with members of Operation Dudula. The images and videos circulating are as raw as they come, and what they reveal is a nation divided, angry, and ready to erupt. It all began in the early hours when Dudula members marched through the neighborhoods, chanting slogans and demanding action against what they call the illegal foreign invasion. They waved placards, shouted at bystanders, and moved with a kind of militant energy that has become their trademark. But this time, the streets did not remain quiet. Local South Africans, fed up with what they see as Dudula's intimidation tactics, poured out into the open. Within minutes, shouting turned into pushing, and pushing into violent scuffles. Stones were thrown, fists flew, and the police found themselves caught in the middle of a storm they could barely contain. The sound of rubber bullets being fired echoed through the air as officers tried to separate the two groups. Tear gas canisters hissed on the tar roads while mothers screamed at their children to run indoors. Businesses slammed their doors shut in panic, and what was supposed to be just another protest turned into a street battle. Witnesses described the scene as one of raw fury, where neighbors turned against neighbors, and anger spilled over into uncontrollable chaos. Social media lit up with footage, with some praising the resistance against Dudula and others calling it an unnecessary provocation that put innocent lives at risk. The clash revealed something much deeper than a simple disagreement about foreign nationals. It peeled back the layers of frustration, unemployment, crime, and government inaction that sit at the heart of South Africa's fragile social fabric. Dudula supporters insist they are defending their communities, claiming that undocumented immigrants are taking jobs, flooding schools, and overburdening clinics. But those who rose against them say enough is enough, accusing Dudula of acting like vigilantes, spreading hate, and dividing poor communities that should be standing together in solidarity. As the fighting grew more heated, the chants of "South Africa belongs to us" clashed with cries of "Stop the violence, we are one people." The symbolism was striking. On one side stood those who feel abandoned by their leaders, left to fight for scraps in a broken economy. On the other side, those who see humanity, compassion, and the need for unity, warning that Dudula's crusade is only fueling a fire that could burn down the very communities they claim to protect. The battle lines may have been drawn on the streets, but they reflect a bigger war of ideas raging across the nation. Reporters on the ground described scenes of burning tires blocking roads, angry groups armed with sticks, and police shields reflecting the flames of makeshift barricades. By afternoon, the air smelled of smoke and chemicals, and sirens wailed non-stop. Parents worried about their children walking back from school, commuters feared being caught in the crossfire, and shopkeepers stood helpless as potential looters circled like vultures. South Africa has seen clashes before, but there was something about this eruption that felt like a dangerous tipping point. Politicians quickly scrambled to respond, with some condemning Dudula for stirring unrest and others blaming the government for ignoring the cries of desperate communities. Analysts are warning that these confrontations will only become more frequent as long as unemployment remains sky-high and services collapse. One expert put it bluntly, the fight is not just about foreigners. It is about hunger, poverty, and betrayal. People are fighting each other because they cannot fight the system that has failed them. Those words cut deep into the heart of the matter. The tragedy is that while South Africans are clashing with each other, the real issues remain unsolved. Corruption continues to eat away at the state, billions disappear into the pockets of elites, and promises of reform ring hollow. The streets become the battlefield where ordinary people, already crushed by hardship, vent their rage on one another while those in power watch from a distance. The Dudula confrontation was not just about who is allowed to stay in the country, it was a cry of pain from a nation that feels abandoned. As the sun set on that chaotic day, the streets slowly emptied, leaving behind broken glass, smoldering tires, and the heavy silence of exhaustion. Police vans patrolled nervously, while community leaders tried to calm their neighbors, pleading for peace. Yet beneath that silence lingers the question, how long before the next clash? Because what we saw was not an isolated event, but a symptom of something much larger, something building like pressure in a sealed container that could one day explode beyond control. For now, South Africans are left with scars, physical for those who were beaten and emotional for those who watched their own communities tear apart. Dudula vows to continue their mission, while those opposed to them promise they will not back down either. The battle is far from over, and the streets will likely hear those chants again. What direction this takes is anyone's guess, but one thing is certain, the tension is real, the anger is raw, and the country is standing on a razor's edge. This is the reality of South Africa today, a land rich in spirit but fractured by crisis, where hope is drowning in despair and unity feels like a dream slipping further away. The clash with Dudula may have been one day, one fight, one street. But it is part of a much bigger storm that is gathering over the nation. And until leaders find a way to restore trust, deliver jobs, and bring communities together, these eruptions will keep tearing at the soul of the country. Family, what do you think? Was this clash a necessary stand against vigilante tactics, or a dangerous escalation that threatens to spark even more violence? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share this video far and wide, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into the stories shaking South Africa.